Hi, Westtown families. This video is going to focus on adding fractions with unlike denominators. You most likely saw a video about finding common denominators or finding like denominators. And so we're also going to find like denominators or common denominators in with this example, but we're also going to add the fractions together. We also will end up subtracting the fraction from a whole, and it'll make more sense once we read the question. So let's go ahead and read it. Sally and Tim are working together to paint a fence. Sally has painted 3/16 of the fence, and Tim has painted 1/4 of the fence. What fraction of the fence has not been painted? So this question has a lot of information in it. With the students, I would go sentence by sentence in the question and determine what information is important, what information is not important. So Sally and Tim are working together to paint a fence. That's nice and all, but doesn't really matter who's painting the fence. We just need to know that the fence is being painted. So they're painting a fence. Sally has painted 3/16 of the fence, and Tim has painted 1/4 of the fence. That's important to know. 3/16 has been painted by Sally. 1/4 of the fence has been painted by Tim. So I'll just put a T for Tim and an S for Sally, and I'll underline the fractions that we need to know. What fraction of the fence has not been painted? Has not been painted is pretty important to know. So I think we need to first figure out what fraction of the fence has been painted. So if Sally has painted 3/16 and Tim has painted 1/4, we can add those together to find the total fraction of the fence that's been painted. So 3/16. Let me just double check my fractions. Plus 1/4 is going to equal some amount. We don't know. I'll put a question mark. That's what I need to find out, okay? Let's take a look at the denominators of these fractions, or the bottom numbers in each fraction. We have 16 and 4. Right away we know we can't add these fractions as they are right now. So we need to find a common denominator, okay? 16 and 4. Well, 16 is already a larger number, so let me skip count by 4s and see if I'll get to 16. 4, 8, 12, 16. So the denominators can both be 16ths, okay? 3/16 is going to stay 3/16. That's already in the form of 16ths. I'll just rewrite it. I'll bring down my addition sign. And now I need to figure out what 1/4 is as 16ths. We're going to find an equivalent fraction to 1/4 in 16ths, okay? I can do this in a number of ways. I could draw a number line. I know 1/4 is between 0 and 1, so I'll have my number line go from 0 to 1. 1/2 is exactly in between. And then 1/4 is half of a half, so I'll go ahead and note that right there. So we've got 1/4, 2/4, or 1/2. This would be 3/4, and then we have 1/2, which is also 4/4, okay? And I'll write that as well, okay? Now, that's nice that we can identify 1/4 on the number line, but we're looking for 16ths. So if we have 4 equal parts already, how can we get 16 equal parts? We could take each part and break it into 4 parts, because 4 times 4 is 16. So let's go ahead and do that, okay? So if I now have, let's double check. I have 1/16, 2/16, 3/16, 4/16. I have 4 parts to that 1/4. I could go through each of the segments and break it into 4 equal parts. That's 1, 2, 3, 4 more 16ths. 1, 2, 3, 4 more 16ths. 1, 2, 3, 4 more 16ths. So I have 16 equal spaces on my number line between 0 and 1. And now I'm trying to find an equivalent fraction for 1/4. So 1/4 is also equal to 4/16. I'm just going to go ahead and write 4/16 so we don't forget that, okay? We could also use our fraction strips, our fraction bars. So we're looking at 1/4. I'm going to go ahead and just mark where that 1/4 ends. That's 1/4. And now let me look for my 16ths. I don't have 16ths on this, on these fraction bars. So this particular set of fraction bars isn't going to help me with 16ths necessarily. But wait a minute, I know 1/16 is also half of 1/8. So if I split these 8ths in half, and I line it up with my 1/4, oops, I drew my 1/4 line in the wrong spot. 1/4 is right there. I will see that 4/16 is equal to 2/4. Just kidding. 4/16 is equal to 1/4, okay? All right, so I'm going to go ahead and write 4/16. But I also want to show you using multiplying the denominator and the numerator by the same number to get an equivalent fraction to 1/4 in 16ths. So if we had 1/4 and we knew we could make it into something 16ths, I would ask 4 times what gives me 16? 4 times 4 is 16. I'll multiply the denominator by 4. I also need to multiply the numerator by 4 to keep my fraction's value the same. I don't want to change the value of it. And remember, it's like we're multiplying by 4/4, which is really equal to 1. 4/4 is equal to 1. So 1 times 4 is 4. We have 4/16. All right? So let's go ahead and add 3/16 plus 4/16. If we have 3/16 and 4 more 16ths, we have a total of 7/16. 7/16 of the fence has been painted. Our question asks us to find what fraction of the fence has not been painted. So if the whole fence is one whole fence, or 16/16, let me go ahead and write one whole. Let's take the part we've already had painted to find what's left. So one whole fence minus 7/16 of a fence. Remember, one whole is equal to 16/16. We need a common denominator. So let's go ahead and take 16/16 minus 7/16. If we have 16 and we take 7, we're left with 9 out of the 16 parts of the fence. 9/16 of the fence has not been painted, okay? 9/16 of the fence has not been painted. So I would go ahead and write of the fence and box in my answer so it's easy to identify. All right, thank you.